Start that over. At this time, I would like to call the meeting to order at 7 o'clock. Today is Thursday, June 27th, 2024, and this is a meeting of the Rent Stabilization Commission for the City of West Hollywood. We would like to begin by acknowledging that the land on which we gather, currently known as the City of West Hollywood, is the occupied, unceded sea territory of the Gabrielino Tonga and Gabrielino Kizh peoples. Commissioner Topshin, would you like to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Sure, thank you. Please rise, everyone, and repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Secretary, may we have roll call, please?
Yes. Commissioner Bass?
Here.
Commissioner Kirpies?
Here.
Commissioner Rory?
Present.
Commissioner Topshin?
Here.
And Vice Chair Moore.
Here. We have a quorum. Has everyone had the chance to review tonight's agenda?
I'll move the agenda as provided.
Does anyone want to?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the agenda. Madam Secretary, may we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Bass?
Aye.
Commissioner Kirpies?
Aye.
Commissioner Rory?
Aye.
Commissioner Topshin?
Aye.
And Vice Chair Moore.
Aye. Motion passes. We have the minutes for the meeting from the meeting of June 13th, 2024. Has everyone had the chance to review them? Do we have a motion?
I'll move as presented.
I'll second.
Madam Secretary, may we have a roll call, please?
Yes. Commissioner Bass?
Aye.
Commissioner Kirpies?
Aye.
Commissioner Rory?
Aye.
Commissioner Topshin?
Aye.
And Vice Chair Moore.
Aye. Motion passes. Do we have any speakers from the public?
No public speakers at this time.
Okay. The next item is the manager report. Mr. Kessinger, may we have the report, please?
Yes, good evening, Commissioners. It's nice to see you all again. Tonight, we're going to be discussing the announcement of the annual general adjustment, or the AGA, as well as adjustments to the relocation fees and temporary relocation expense schedule. The next commission meeting on July 11th, we'll be looking at Appeal D4837, and that will also involve the reorganization of the chair and vice chair, as well as commission liaison appointments to other commission and advisory boards. On July 25th, we'll be looking at Appeal D4849. August 8th, we'll be looking at D4846 for an appeal. August 22nd, we're looking at the appeal D4865, as well as a presentation on the interest rate on security deposits and updates to valuation guidelines. And finally, on September 12th, we'll be looking at appeal D4876. That concludes the look ahead report. Thank you.
Thank you. Do any commissioners have any questions?
Just a quick one. Mr. Manager, you mentioned the valuation guidelines. When it's going to be updated?
So the valuation guidelines, the presentation about the updates will be on August 22nd.
August 22nd.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
I have a question for staff and maybe the commission. Maybe this isn't even the right time to ask it. But considering we have 2 vacancies on the commission, and I know that I will be absent on the July 11th meeting. I'm not sure if anyone else last time mentioned that or not. But I'm curious, would a motion be in order to postpone the reorganization until a following meeting or till we have more members of the commission, and we have our acting vice chair serve as acting vice chair until that point, or serve as acting chair until that point. I don't know when the appropriate time to make that motion would be.
I checked with the clerk,
Okay.
and she mentioned that according to the bylaws, we have to include it in the next meeting's agenda.
And then-
At that point, we can make a motion, or you guys can make a motion to move it to the next meeting.
Great, thank you.
Okay, thank you. There's no appeal scheduled on tonight's agenda. So we'll move on to unfinished business and new business. We have item 9A, 2024 to 25, annual general adjustment and relocation fees. Mr. Kessinger, do we have a presentation for the item?
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you.
So I'll be presenting tonight on the annual general adjustment as well as the adjustment to the relocation fees and temporary relocation expense schedule, which are both effective September 1st, 2024. So how the CPI is calculated is based on West Hollywood Municipal Code section 17.36.020, which stipulates that the maximum allowable rent for a rental unit may be increased without application to the city in an amount not to exceed 75% of the increase in the consumer price index during the preceding 12 months. Said percentage increase shall be equal to the percentage increase between the CPI last reported as of May of the prior year and the month of May of the current year. The amount of the permitted increase shall be rounded to the nearest 1/4% and shall be limited to a maximum of 3%. So here's just a snapshot of where we pulled our figures for this year. So the May to May CPI change as described in the West Hollywood Municipal Code was 3.9%. So this just shows some of the raw data corroborating that percentage. So we take the raw data of the CPI from May 2024, subtract it, and then subtract the May 2023 raw CPI data. That gives us 12.442 raw data points, which equals 3.882%, rounded up to 3.9%. Then, per the code, we take 75% of that figure, which is 2.911%. 2.911% rounded to the nearest 1/4% is equal to 3%. And just a reminder to the public that although the AGA is effective September 1st, 2024, landlords may only implement rent increases once every 12 months. Here's a brief description of how the CPI is calculated for relocation fees, which is spoken to in West Hollywood Municipal Code section 17.52.020C, which stipulates relocation fees shall be adjusted for inflation by the percentage change in the rent of primary residence component of the CPIU index for the Los Angeles, Long Beach, Anaheim, California area from May to May of each year, rounded to the nearest whole dollar. So that is different. Rather than being a general summary of the CPI, this is a CPI figure that is specific to rent of primary residence. You can see that figure looks different here at 4.7%. So here is a table which shows the current fee amounts and the fee amounts effective July 1st, 2024, with the adjustment of 4.7% based on the CPI of rent as a primary residence. You'll see that 0-bedroom units are moving from $8,680 to $9,087, excuse me. 1-bedroom units are moving from $12,258 to $12,833. 2 bedrooms from $16,511 to $17,285, and 3 or more bedrooms from $21,790 to $22,812. Below that is a description of tenant types. Qualified tenancies, the current relocation fee amount is moving from $22,980 to $24,058. Moderate income threshold is moving from $22,980 to $24,058. And lower income tenancies are moving from $28,937 to $30,294. Just to clarify what some of those tenant types mean, qualified indicates that there's at least one tenant in the household that is over 62, disabled, with a dependent minor or terminally ill. And then the moderate and low income thresholds are defined according to HUD guidelines for Section 8 tenancies. And specifically, moderate is 120% of the HUD area median income. The calculation for low income, that limit is established annually by HUD. There is also an adjustment that's been done to temporary relocation fees. The difference between permanent and temporary relocation fees, a permanent relocation fee is when a tenancy is ending for a no-fault reason. A temporary relocation fee is when a unit has been rendered uninhabitable and a tenant must be relocated at the owner's expense, and where there are differences between the amenities provided in the lease for the original apartment and the new unit of relocation. This is where these per diem rates come in. So these have also been adjusted. There is a meal allowance that is moving from $62 to $65. The laundry allowance is remaining the same at $2 per day. And pet accommodations, where there are no accommodations in the new place of residence for the temporary relocation, are moving from $68 for dogs to $71, and $47 for cats to $49. That concludes my presentation, but I rest for any questions that the commissioners might have.
Yes, I see on here that there's nothing specific about parking. How is that calculated into situations where the tenant is temporarily displaced? You know, most, I don't know whether individuals currently, I think some individuals pay extra for parking at their building, some don't. It's included in their rent, so how does that work out?
So this does not capture all of the fee schedule. So there are separate fee schedules for parking, for example. These are just those by resolution of the council that are required to be updated based on the annual general adjustment per year. So that's located separately from here.
Okay, so those stay stagnant until there's a motion or a movement to change them. These change every year and need to be announced. Okay.
Correct.
Thank you.
On the slide before this, I think it was the slide before this, are these the permanent relocation adjustments?
Yes, so this is where a tenancy is ended for no-fault reasons.
And do we take into account how long someone has lived in a unit or what they're paying monthly?
So not necessarily what they're paying monthly. There are different stipulations, for example, for the Ellis Act that can impact the period of notice.
Yeah.
But in terms of these relocation fees, the tenant type is not necessarily based on the amount of rent being paid or the length of the tenancy. It's based on things like, for example, for qualified, if someone is over 62, disabled, minor, terminally ill, and then their income itself, which is verified through an external company that we contract with, RSG.
Okay. So if someone's been in a rent-stabilized unit for 25 years and they're 70 years old and paying $1,000 a month, I'm not sure that something like this would suffice for them. And how does the city accommodate that?
So if they're 70 years old, they would actually be a qualified tenant because age is taken into consideration for that. The length of tenancy, not necessarily, but we do work with tenants, especially vulnerable tenants, through external partners to ensure that they have assistance in the relocation, even if it's not necessarily reflected directly in the relocation amounts.
Got
here.
it. Okay, thank you.
Follow-up question on the length of tenancy. Do we have, I know some state laws require a minimum of 1 year. We don't require that in our ordinance, correct?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions? Commissioner Rory?
I probably should know the answer, but on the temporary relocations, could you just tell me what's the policy or philosophy behind these different allowances? Only because the scenario you brought up where maybe the unit in a particular building is flooded and they have to move them into another unit in the same building. I'm just curious, I must be missing something. How does that impact the tenant's ability to cook for themselves or food? Like, I don't get that. Or are we saying the stress on the animals entitles to them to a per diem, or like just what's the philosophy on these three categories?
Yeah, and I think
or
you've
policy reasons behind it.
Yeah, so the idea when a tenant is relocated at no fault of their own, because there's work being done, because there was a disaster that impacted the habitability of a unit, the idea is that it should be comparable. And sometimes tenants and landlords will come to an arrangement because there might not be an exactly comparable unit that's available in that moment or in that time range that the tenant needs to be relocated. So this is more an example, for example, if there wasn't a kitchen, there might be a meal allowance provided. If they have a dog and a cat, for example, and they're staying at a place that doesn't allow pets, this reflects the need for them to find new accommodations for their pets or to be able to pay for their food in the absence of a kitchen, which would make it comparable to their original unit.
So these per diems are when the temporary relocation is not comparable to their tenant
Exactly.
apartment. Okay,
Yeah,
that
it's to reflect
clears
those
that up for me.
differences.
Got it.
Of course.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
We're on items from staff already.
Nothing.
I'm back.
Is there anything?
No items from staff at this time. Yeah.
Do we need to officially accept and announce?
Yeah,
You can just say receive and file for the
Okay.
item,
Okay.
but there's no actual motion or
Okay.
that needs to take place. It's just really an announcement from the commission.
wonderful. Received and filed. You want me to slam? Thank you.
Not this time.
So no items from staff? Okay. Do we have any speakers from the public?
No public speakers tonight.
Okay. Do we have any commissioner comments?
I would just say, to echo Commissioner Kirby's thoughts, since we are a quorum of 5 for the immediate future, we should just really, and myself included, tonight I was in work and I was starting to sweat being able to come. So if we're not able to make any of these meetings in the near future, let's all just let Diana know, and if there's any problems, that way we can adjust. But I think we should pay attention because we're down 2 for the time being.
I agree with you completely.
And I should be around, but if people know they're not, like July 11th, if you're not going to be here, that's good to know, and we can try to adjust that. And I didn't quite understand, are we going to adjust that? They're going to post a new agenda and then, so is that going to
So
happen?
I think that we're voting on at the next meeting
Correct.
on that item to move the reorganization to the next meeting.
Okay,
Yes. If the motion is made. So, if the motion is made.
got it.
We'll agendize it on the July 11th agenda. Okay.
Make one announcement just for, I try to talk more about legislation throughout the year, but I haven't done much this year. There hasn't been a lot of necessarily renter protections in the legislature that I'm aware of. But if you are paying attention to legislation at the state level and you've been following a bill along, know that there's an important deadline coming up. July 3rd is the last day for bills to be heard in the policy committee, I believe, of the second house. So basically my point is, if you care about a certain piece of legislation, make sure your legislators hear about it this week, because they will be likely voting on it soon. And then they will go on vacation or a summer break for 30 days.
Okay. Okay, I'd like to thank Mr. Kessinger for your presentation. This was wonderful to hear the updates. And as always, Madam Secretary, thank you so much for everything. This meeting is adjourned and to the next regularly scheduled meeting of the Rent Stabilization Commission to be held on July 11th, 2024 in West Hollywood Park Public Meeting Room, Council Chambers.